Good morning. Remember yesterday we talked about how you have two gates, two choices. Verse 13, Matthew 7, enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few. I was approached by some missionaries from a different religious tradition a number of years ago. I actually lived in Texas at the time, and they had a theology that taught that most people would end up would be saved one way or another. And I said, let me ask you a question. You believe in Jesus? They said, yes. And I said, how do you explain Jesus' words then when he said, narrow here is the way, or in this case, the gate, as he uses it, but broad or wide is the way, or here, the gate that leads to destruction. Narrow is the way that leads to life. Broad is the gate, right, that leads to destruction. How do you, if most people are going to be with Christ, then what do you do with Jesus' words? And the individual looked back at me and said, well, what is narrow? What do you mean? I mean, how would we describe narrow? And I said, well, here's what I can tell you. Narrow is more narrow than broad, right? It's obvious. Jesus is making a clear statement. More people will walk away from him. More people will not be in his kingdom. More people will reject him. More people will be alienated from him. More people will choose the easy way. Then we'll choose the hard way that leads to life. Then we'll choose to follow him. Then we'll choose to live in his kingdom. What does it mean that the gate is narrow? Let me give you a few points. Okay. Number one, fewer people will choose to go through the narrow gate. Secondly, it's arduous. The gate that leads to the narrow way, the narrow gate is arduous. The verse says it, for the gate is narrow and the way is hard. You have to repel your flesh. You have to not give into the baser urges of your nature. You have to choose to live a different kind of life among a people who don't subscribe to that life, and you look like an oddball. It's hard. It limits what you can take with you if you're going on the narrow way, right? Jesus points this out in his teaching. You can't just collect everything and be someone who is a hoarder of things and possessions and have your allegiances with this world and your allegiance with material substance. No. You got to travel light in some ways because you're focused on the kingdom. It constrains your options. You don't have as many options. You're not shifting lanes. In the world, you got lots of options, man. When it comes to life with Christ, you have an option. Do what he says. Fifth, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. It's narrow. There's more ways that you could be injured, so to speak, along the way, because again, you're running against the stream. You're going against the flow in that way. But I want to give you a sixth, and that is that the narrow way, think of it like a little mountain path, has amazing views. The payoff is unbelievable. The narrow way is the best way. The narrow gate is the best gate, but it's the hardest. So you have to expect that as a Christian, that you've chosen the narrow gate, which means you've chosen the harder way. But let me tell you something about evangelism real quick. As you share with people the gospel, don't try to give them a sales pitch. Don't act like it's going to be easy, because it won't be. The broad way is easy. It's easy to live like the world. It's hard to live in the kingdom. Now, the good news is, if Christ has come into your life, guess what you have? A kingdom heart. You will want to do the hard thing. That's one of the ways in which you recognize that you, in fact, are a kingdom citizen, by wanting to do that which honors him, which often is hard. May the Lord bless you as you go through and live on the narrow way. Take care.